Excelsior, fellow Marvelers! Guess who's back? Back again. Loki's back. Tell all Marvelers because the second episode of Loki has just dropped and we are live and watching it. All right. Make sure you drop in your comments and subscribe to my channel for everything Marvel and lots more fun, lots of sports. Euro 2020s are going on. I don't know why they're still calling it 2020. Maybe they thought it was too expensive to rebrand it as Euro 2021. But at the same time, Copa America 2021 is going on. We start with a recap of what had happened in the first episode, Glorious Purpose. And in Glorious Purpose, Loki had been captured by the Time Variance Authority. So these people are the timekeepers, and he meets Agent Mobius, played excellently by Owen Wilson, by the way. And he is given a little bit of a glimpse about what all he has done in his past that is not really nice. So that's what we are going to be checking out, how it's going to go into the rest of this series. Agent Mobius is obviously trying to track one of the variants he's actually stealing reset charges, the time reset charges that the timekeepers and the Minutemen, as they are called, are setting wherever they go during the uh, adventures in which they have to capture variants and in which they have to try and set things right, to bring them all into the sacred timeline, so to speak. All right. So the Marvel Studios logo is rolling, and we are also rolling with Loki episode 2. Welcome to my viewers, and let's discuss some nice Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff while the second episode rolls, right? Please go ahead and drop in your chat. Okay, the green logo of Marvel Studios, tailor-made for Loki, is finished. Let's jump right into which year is it going to be. This is Oshkosh in Wisconsin. The year is not specified. Here it is coming up, 1985. Oh, the year I was born, serendipity. All right. So it seems like a Renaissance reenactment fair in 1985 in Wisconsin, and people are all dressed up in their cosplay. And here come the Minutemen. They portal in through their golden translucent door in full TVA gear. And one of the cosplayers is actually trying to get a handle on how these people have landed up in their Renaissance reenactment fair. But they're obviously tracking that villainous hooded character. Now, there are fan theories going around that it's Loki himself who is playing havoc with the timeline. And of course, it could come around to be that because Marvel loves to twist around its stories so that there is lots of infighting between the characters. But this might be the first time that a character is fighting himself after Vision fighting White Vision in WandaVision. Oh, that was a lot of visions. All right. Okay, so this is a scene from out of the first trailers and exclusive looks in which the Minutemen are tracking down the villain of this series, so to speak. So there is something that's gone on with one of the Minutemen. She has been taken over by the villain. Her eyes glowed green. And in fact, it's the commander of the Minutemen. And she's killing the rest of the Minutemen. But the villain appears as well. So it seems that the villain is able to control other people not by possessing them, but by taking over their minds and bodies. Okay, and only one Minuteman is left standing after the commander has been forced to kill most of them, and he is down as well. So it's obvious that this villain is not shy to kill people, and it's picked up the body of the commander of the Minutemen, and now it has gained control of their portals as well. So this is a huge development in the first scene of the second episode of Loki itself. the villain, the hooded character who was playing havoc with the timelines, has basically gained control of the portal device as well. Earlier, he or she was just stealing reset charges, but now it has gained control of one of the devices which the Minutemen use to open their portals into different spaces and times. So that is going to be something huge as it develops. All right, so Loki has been given a desk at the TVA, and he's being quizzed on the whole Nexus timeline and Sacred Timeline thing by Miss Minutes, who is voiced by Tara Strong, by the way. Tara Strong is a great voice actress. She has been voicing so many characters, so many huge characters over the years, uh, that she has gained a lot of respect, not just from me, but from the entire industry. And there we go, Miss Minutes hiding back into the little iMac looking computers that the TVA uses, very cute little round things. So the entire retro tech thing that the look has been developed is playing really well into this varying timelines that they are going to uh, be trying and controlling. All right. So now they are getting a recap of how the team that had gone into 1985 Wisconsin was ambushed by the villain, and now they've got control of the temporal aura. That's what the portal is called, apparently. Okay. So Loki has obviously got the TVA uniform going around, and he's got the variant written at the back, which was shown in the trailers as well. All right. So I guess Mobius and the Minutemen are going to be accompanied by Loki in the hunt for a time criminal. Okay, so now it's pretty clear that what they're looking for is a variant of Loki. Okay, so it's pretty apparent from the holograms that are coming up that it has shape shifting powers and illusion projection powers and a lot of other mischief making powers as suits the god of mischief. And Loki is trying to put himself apart from the variants that they have been showing in that Star Wars type hologram. Okay, and a bit of exposition about how Loki can project himself and how it's different from making a holograph or creating an illusion. All right. So they're going to break into two teams, and Owen Wilson or Professor Loki is going to be in two different teams. Okay. It's time for them to get into the thick of the action. Okay. So I guess they have deprived him of his powers, and they are going to encourage him to help them catch this variant of Loki by promising him an audience with the timekeepers. Okay. So Loki is asking why they can't just travel to a little before the attacks happen and catch the guy. But that's what Mobius is telling him, that every Nexus event, which is when a timeline splits from the sacred timeline, it causes fluctuations in those timelines and in those events. And so it's hard to predict. So reset charges actually cut off that alternate timeline and let the sacred timeline reintegrate into itself. Okay, so they are back into the Renaissance fair where the entire fight in the first scene took place. And so they are trying to figure out what has happened over there. They are surprised that that person has taken a very drastic step of actually kidnapping a Minuteman. So let's see if Loki can help them out in such circumstances, right? Okay, Loki is having some thoughts about what that variant is doing, and it seems that because he is a variant of Loki, he can sort of get into his mind frame, so to speak. Where there are wolf's ears, wolf's teeth are near. It means to be aware of your surroundings. I'm putting it exactly. Okay, so let's see how he's going to take out his skills and use them. Okay, so there's going to be some antagonism between the Time Variance Authority Minutemen and Loki, but Loki is always good at turning people's screws, and that's what he's doing. All right, especially with B-15. But Loki says that his plan, the villain's plan, is to capture him. So let's see if he plays along and goes along with the variant that is causing all this mischief by making some mischief of his own. But he's looking for some assurances that he's going to be allowed to survive the timeline and that he wants to speak to the timekeepers. Loki, as always, has some sort of ulterior motives, and his warnings are being disregarded by the Minutemen. It seems that they are going to be taken in by the villain. So, what do you guys think? Is every reset that they cause changing something according to the villain's plan? Because now that they have reset the first scene, the thing that went on in the first scene in which the villain captured the hunter, the Minuteman C-20 was the commander of that unit that had gone in to uh, track the villain. It seems that Loki is kind of getting into the headspace of the villain, and obviously he's helping the TVA. And okay, so we've shifted scenes and we are back in the Time Variance Authority headquarters. And Mobius, played awesomely by Owen Wilson, is having a discussion with the timekeeper, the justice who passed down the sentence on Loki. First, she asked him, first, she actually ordered that he be reset or he be disintegrated. But now, because of Mobius's insistence that Loki could help them catch this villain, they have let Loki help them out. All right. So they are having those kind of bureaucratic discussions in which Owen Wilson, as Mobius, is defending his decision to take Loki into the field, and Ravonna, the timekeeper justice, is telling him that taking such a dangerous variant into the field with them is not really the thing they do. But since when do Marvel do things that they are meant to do, right? All right. So uh, while we are, while they are discussing why Loki should or should not be allowed to help the TVA, it's obvious that Loki himself has started figuring out why his variant is playing the villain in this timeline and why he's messing around with the timelines. So this is going to be, yeah, they are saying that the timekeepers, the entities that actually formed the sacred timeline are very interested in this case, and that they are keeping a close eye and they are very involved in it. So Ravonna Slayer is authorizing Mobius to take the help of Loki and to catch this variant. And the end parting shot that Owen Wilson gives her is that Loki is really arrogant. The character, of course, is egotistic beyond measure, and Tom Hiddleston is great at doing those physical antics that befit a god of mischief. Okay, and he says that he's a trickster, and he's trying to justify his actions by saying that he is a trickster. But now they are walking down the corridors. It's like those West Wing shots. I mean, most of you guys are obviously too young to know what the West Wing was, but you know the shots in which they follow characters down hallways and down corridors while other people just walk out and about, going about their business. So I, for the first time, saw those shots in the West Wing, which was an Aaron Sorkin production about things that went on in the White House. Uh, Kind of slow compared to what Marvel and all put out these days, but it was a pretty good series nonetheless. So if you're interested in some political drama, I would say it's much better than House of Cards. So take that into account when you're figuring out which show to binge watch while we wait for the next Loki Wednesday next Wednesday. All right. So some more soul searching between Loki and Owen Wilson, and Owen Wilson is giving him some motivation, some much required motivation about why he's taking Loki along with him on these missions, and why he thinks that Loki can help them catch the variant who is playing the villain in this series. So that villain is obviously a variant of Loki, as we've already established, in case you're just joining us now. And down in the lift we go. So these lift sequences in which they go up and down the Time Variance Authority office are meant to show the vast scope of the TVA headquarters. It's still not clear whether it's just a city or an entire planet that covers the TVA. And now Owen Wilson is saying that Loki needs to go through the files of the variant, the villain, who is actually one of Loki's variants. And Loki is getting a desk at which there are piles of files. Oh, that rhymed. So the piles of files are waiting for Loki's unique perspective. And there we go. He's starting to look over all the paperwork. But this is not what he's really here for. And we see a character in the background. Let's see who she is or he is. Let's see. And I think she has just shushed Loki. Okay. Loki turns around to see who this new character is and shushes her right back. All right. Here we go. Loki is trying to figure out where he is in the TVA. He approaches a strict looking librarian type clerk. It seems that she's too preoccupied with her job until he rings the ding dong bell and gets her attention. Okay, so there's some sort of information that he's looking for, but obviously his charm is not quite as effective as it was on mere mortals in Midgard, Earth 616, or he's trying to get to some classified information. So, depending on what his security clearance is, she is giving him a couple of files, and very thin ones they are. So, Loki is obviously disappointed, and his own case file is being handed to him. Loki Lofison. So, for those of you who need reminding, or for those of you who are new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki is surnamed Laufey's son because Laufey was the frost giant whose progeny he is. Okay, I think he has chanced upon some information about himself from his file. So let's see. Destruction of Asgard. Oh, Thor, Ragnarok. Total planetary destruction. Okay. Yeah. Entire civilization annihilated. Although that's strictly not true because the remnants of the Asgardians have now found a place in on Earth in Scandinavia, and Valkyrie is their new king, as depicted in the end of Avengers Endgame, the biggest movie of all time. Okay, so Loki has seen that there was zero variance energy detected during the destruction of Asgard. And here he is. He has come to meet Owen Wilson with what he has just found out, interrupting his lunch, by the way. Ragnar. Okay, so what he has figured out is that the variant of Loki is hiding within the destruction of Asgard because it was not a Nexus event and there was zero variance energy detected. Okay, this is some good storytelling and nice tying together of Marvel's, shall I say, peculiarities. But in the end, it's of course comic book speak for saying that the variant, the villain of this series, is hiding at the moment in time when Asgard was destroyed in Thor Ragnarok, which, by the way, was directed by Taika Waititi, one of the best New Zealanders and human beings of all time. Okay. Loki is playing around with Owen Wilson's lunch. He's used his salad to kind of metaphorize Asgard. And oh, he's again met up with Casey, the the receptionist who was at the desk when Loki was brought into the TVA. Oh, okay. And he has just destroyed Owen Wilson's salad by pouring Casey's lunch drink into it to signify Ragnarok. He admits that it was a clumsy metaphor, but the point being that the villain is hiding within huge events to disguise its time variance energy signature. Okay, so because he's saying that because it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you need to understand this, everything will make sense because you are kind of suspending your disbelief to believe all this and to invest yourself into this. But that's the magic of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right. So Loki is saying that because such a huge event happens, a small little event occurring within that huge event is not going to upset the timeline, and that is why the variant, the villain variant, can hide inside Apocalypse. So now he's trying to convince Owen Wilson whether he's convinced with this theory or not, and whether they can do it again whether they can check it out. And now they are making their way to Pompeii in Italy. All right. So this was when Mount Vesuvius exploded and buried the entire town of Pompeii in ash and lava in 79 AD. So that is where they have landed. I'm guessing that it's only, yeah, it is only Owen Wilson and Loki who have come to visit Pompeii to check out his theory. And Owen Wilson is going to be keeping an eye on the tempad. That's what they're calling that device, which has those graphs which shows branching in the timeline. So let's see. This is again going to lead into one of those scenes, shots from the trailer, I would say, in which Loki is walking towards a ash cloud coming in on a city. And this, of course, is going to be Vesuvius exploding on Pompeii. He has just let loose some goats because they have horns. He is speaking Italian, and he is, I guess, warning them that they are going to be washed away by a river of lava and drowned in a cascade of ash and smoke because Vesuvius is about to explode. And there we go. There is the explosion of Vesuvius in the far background. Loki is having a moment, and Owen Wilson has seen something on the tempad. The tempad is showing zero variance energy. So that is why Loki's theory that when something huge happens in the timeline and something small happens at the same time, there is no change in the timeline which the TVA can detect. And that is why the villain variant can hide out in apocalyptic events and there is no trace left of him in the timelines. And the TVA can actually go ahead and take a look at all the apocalypses and all the massive destruction events that have happened so that they can try and figure out where the villain variant of Loki is hiding. So they are back into research mode after that small little entertaining excursion to Pompeii in Italy during the eruption of the Vesuvius volcano. Okay, some more deep discussions in the cafeteria of the TVA between Loki and Owen Wilson. So I guess it's kind of like Captain America and the Winter Soldier when they were setting the scene for the rest of the action to follow, because Captain America and Winter Soldier only amped up its action in the last episodes. And of course, there were moments of action in between the episodes. And the first episode, of course, had the most elaborate action sequence in which Falcon rescued that American army captain from the helicopter uh, from Batroc by flying through the helicopter and taking the guy out without a parachute. Still, uh, this is setting up for a huge timeline shattering, timeline threatening sequence of events. And I guess that is why there is so much exposition going on. We are just beyond halfway in this second episode of Loki, and Mobius played awesomely once again by Owen Wilson. I cannot appreciate him enough because having seen him in other comic roles throughout my life, I can just see how he is going to start to exploit this character's quirkiness to lend some more good cop, bad cop routines some credibility. Because between Loki and Mobius, there is that dynamic of characters, one who is very grounded and who's very experienced and very calm through difficult situations. And then there's, of course, Loki, who is unpredictable and who gets excited by the opportunities to change something, not necessarily for the good, but always for his own good. So this is the kind of shift in the character that has taken place for Loki. Uh, it's a very short span of time in which to turn around a character like that. But then again, Marvel is never shy of taking huge steps to serve the storyline, the bigger storyline. And he says, au contraire, which is one of my favorite French phrases, which means on the contrary. Lots of things when you have to express your disagreement, you say on the contrary. And I think it's a very nice French, very French sounding, very French uh, feels when you say au contraire. All right. So after this, I'm actually still waiting for the discussion in the lunch hall to get over. We are trying to figure out where this discussion is leading, because there has to be a sort of an epiphany at the end, right? There has to be some sort of a character moment in which they realize the motivations for their character to do the things that they are about to do. In the first episode, we saw that Loki was shown much of his past life with the view of trying to get him on the side of good. And yes, finally, we have had a breakthrough because Loki said that you leave, you have memories and, you always have a part of your past with you. But that reminded Mobius that he had got something tangible from the little girl in the first episode when he had gone to France, where he had not first, but the villainous variant had just escaped from that place, and he had got a packet of bubble gum called Kablooey, which is the comics variant of saying blam or boom. So that reminds me that there used to be a bubblegum in India called Boomer, and the ad for that used to say boom, boom, boomer. All right. So they are going through, oh, and they're looking through the future, they're looking through the past, they're looking at apocalypses, and they say Krakatoa exploded in 2049 as well. And there is something going on in Alabama 2050, which they are going to explore. Haven Hills, Alabama, owned by Roxcart until it's wiped out by a hurricane. Okay. So basically, what they are saying is that they have figured out where the villainous variant is hiding and how he's going to uh, keep going back to the same place, because he's got food and supplies to hold out on till his plan starts coming, falling into place. All right. So Mobius has gotten pretty excited. He says, "You don't see me so worked up usually." So that's kind of something new. And there we go. Ravonna has authorized the operation, and Mobius is obviously going to fall flat on his face, because that's how these things work. The main character takes a huge chance, not much good comes of that chance, or something goes horribly wrong, and they have to take the fall for it. But then they pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and go bravely into the future once again, trying to set the world right. All right, so Loki and Mobius are teaming up with the TVA task force to go and find the villainous variant, and they are going to 2050 Alabama. Sweet home Alabama. All right. Okay. So now they are into planning mode. What they've decided is that there is a superstore called Roxcart in the area, and the area in Alabama, Haven Hills, is being threatened by a hurricane. And so people have taken shelter inside the superstore. Now, the Time Variant Authority Minutemen team, Mobius, and Loki are heading into that superstore to try and track down the villain variant. And away we go. The hurricane is hitting them in full force. The year is 2050. They have jumped into the future, and people are still trickling in, trying to take shelter from the storm. It's pouring rain outside, whistling winds, as is to be expected in a storm level hurricane. All right. They make it inside the superstore, and Loki uses some magic to dry himself off and fires a parting shot at the Minutemen. B-15 is insistent that Loki stays with her, and Mobius wants to go somewhere else. He can take one of the other Minutemen, and Mobius is trying to fight her on it, but to no avail. Loki says that he will have to earn her trust, but I don't think that's going to go so easy for either of them, because Loki is not always trustable, is he? And Owen Wilson makes it a point to say that why is it that the people you can't trust are always saying, trust me? So we are zooming out into a bank of monitors, and it seems that the villainous variant is keeping an eye on the entire store. He has put a countdown timer of 20 minutes, and let me see, that's less than the runtime of the episode. So 15 minutes to go in the second episode of Loki. Welcome to my new watchers. Make sure you subscribe if you are Marvel fans. Excelsior! And Loki and B-15, the major Minutemen commander, are checking out the greenhouse, and 15 minutes remain in this episode. It seems like there are a couple of people who are roaming inside the greenhouse. They are they've come across a person who is shopping for plants during a hurricane. So, and they know that Loki can shapeshift, and the villainous, the villainous variant can straight up just possess people. What he did was grab the arm of B-15 and transfer himself into her body, or rather transfer control of her body to his mind with a green flash of the eyes. And now we see Loki is talking to Loki, the hero Loki of our MCU, talking to the villainous Loki of this Loki series. So this is the first time that it's Loki versus Loki. Let's see how this is going to pan out. Things are just about to heat up, I guess, because there is a whole crowd of people who are holed up in the superstore, and they are okay. They have found the commander who was taken hostage by the villainous variant of Loki in the first scene. And she is repeating over and over, it's real, it's real, it's real. So let's see how this goes. The variant villain takes over the manager of the superstore. I won't say the manager, but one of the workers of the superstore. Something bad is about to go down because Loki himself looks a little flustered. He was calling the variant out on using possession and on using enchantment, and now he's challenging him to show himself. So let's see if we get a look at the true form of this villainous variant of Loki. Now Loki is going to offer something to Loki, and Loki says he's going to overthrow the timekeepers. So that is just upping the stakes a lot because Loki wants to take control of time itself. He wants to reign over sacred timeline and have control over the past, the future, and the present. So that is some great upscaling of the stakes by Marvel. Thor is name dropped. Loki is trying to figure out a way in which the villainous variant of Loki and our hero Loki can work together to overthrow the timekeepers. But his offer is rejected because this variant of Loki is not interested in ruling the TVA. I mean, that is kind of a huge thing. We are back with Mobius and the kidnapped Minuteman, and she gave it away, but she has already told the villainous variant how to find the timekeepers. They are trying to contact B-15, from whom the villainous variant of Loki had shifted into the superstore manager called Randy. Reminds me of Randy Marsh of South Park. I'm sure many of you must be aware of South Park, and if you aren't, I mean, check it out if you have the stomach for some really, really obscene humor. Okay, so Loki, our hero, is trying to find out what villainous variant Loki wants, and he's trying to play to the ego of the TVA, and he sees that he has rigged up lots of reset charges around the superstore, and he has shifted into a huge burly man who is just kicking Loki around like he's a deflated football. Deflated because he's not bouncing too much. All right. So getting thrown around the superstore and fighting with the villainous variant of Loki, who has right now possessed a big, heavy-set man. Loki is still trying to get villainous variant Loki to reveal his true form. but that hasn't happened until now. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Tom Hiddleston in a slightly different makeup or getup, but let's see. He's continuing to use other bodies to do his bidding, and of course, throw Tom Hiddleston around like there's no tomorrow. Some robotic dogs, and the Minutemen and Mobius are getting together and they are trying to track down where Loki is. Just 1 minute left on the timer that villain variant Loki is setting all across the superstore. So a little ad for Cuisinart, which is also, I guess, one of the sponsors of MasterChef Australia. Okay. So I think villain variant Loki is finished setting up the reset charges in a circuit, and he has let the big man go. Finally, we see the hooded figure, and are we going to see? Whoa! It's a different female version of Loki. Okay, here we go. The circuits have engaged. The time reset charges have initialized. Let's see what happens. There are so many reset charges that it's looking like those little glow up candles. Oh, and the reset charges have their own little portals under them, and the reset charges are being sent to different places in the timeline, and there are multiple branchings happening from the timeline. Branches rapidly forming. Okay, somebody has bombed the sacred timeline, and there are way too many branches going off all over the place because the villain variant of Loki, who is a lady, has basically sent reset charges all over space and time. We are back to the superstore, and let's see if Loki can get some more information from the villain variant Loki. We are going to be calling her Lady Loki from now on. All right. She conjures a portal and waves goodbye to Loki and walks through the portal to somewhere else. Obviously, he's not going to be able to follow through. But he is getting chased by Mobius, and I think he's going to jump through. Is this what Lady Loki wanted? So they have lost track of Loki. There go the credits, directed by Kate Herron. And we come to the end of another enjoyable episode of Loki. The next Loki Wednesday will be a week later, of course, in case you didn't know how time works, because the TVA apparently don't. And I guess that's it. We'll be checking in next Wednesday. I'm going to be making a small review, 1 minute review of the second episode of Loki right away. Go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to my channel. Excelsior, fellow Marvelers. And see you all next time. Make sure you subscribe. Bye-bye for now.